Friends, today we will start lesson number 14, probability. What is probability? In simple words, probability is possibility. But in this lesson, this possibility, that is probability, we are going to measure, and how to measure the probability and some other terms which are important terms which are normally used in this lesson. Let us discuss all those terms first. That is, first term is random experiment. What is random experiment? See, normal experiment which we perform in our laboratory, the result of that experiment is already known. What is the result? For example, preparation of carbon dioxide. We know the carbon dioxide is to be prepared, that is the final product is carbon dioxide. But in the experiment or in random experiment which we normally use in probability, the random experiment is an experiment in which all possible results are known, but we cannot predict the exact result, or we cannot say that this is to be created. That's why this is random experiment. All possible results are known. For example, one coin is tossed. When coin is tossed, we know that either head or tail is to be, but we cannot say 100% that tail is to be or head. That's why such experiments are random experiment. And we are going to use different random experiments in this lesson. Next point is, what is outcome? The results, whatever is the result or results of random experiment are called outcomes. Now in this experiment or in this lesson, we are going to use equally likely outcomes. Equally likely outcomes means in this experiment there is no favorism. That is, a given number of outcomes are said to be equally likely outcomes if none of them occur in preference to other. कुठलाही आउटकम दुसऱ्या किंवा कुठलाही आपण एखादा आउटकम म्हटलं तर तो दुसऱ्या आउटकमच्या प्रेफरन्स मध्ये किंवा फेवरिझम मध्ये ऑकर होत नाही. दॅट इज कॉल्ड इक्वली लाइकली आउटकम्स. पॉसिबल आउटकम्स, all outcomes of random experiment are possible outcomes. That is, if a coin is tossed, what are the results or what are possible results? Either head or tail. So both head comma tail are the possible outcomes. One more example. Such examples we will discuss in detail in further topic. But here, if you consider one more example, a die is thrown. A die has 6 faces. Let us number them 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6. If a die is thrown, we get either 1 or 2 or 3, 4 or 5 or 6 or only 6, up to 6. That's why possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And number of total possible outcomes are 6. So possible outcomes we should know. Then what is favorable outcomes? The outcomes satisfying a particular condition are called favorable outcomes. For example, if a die is thrown, the possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if I chose an event or I want the number on the upper face should be a prime number, and from 1 to 6 prime numbers are 2, 3, 5. So 2, 3, 5 are favorable outcomes, and total favorable outcomes are 3. So favorable outcomes, that is all outcomes that satisfying a particular condition. What is condition here? The condition is to get prime number, or the condition is to get even number or odd number or numbers less than 6 or greater than 2 or any condition at a time, that is event, and the outcome satisfying that condition is called favorable outcomes. Event is a subset of random experiment. Now we have discussed getting prime number, getting odd number, getting numbers less than 6, or so many conditions which are subset of random experiment, and such subset of random experiment is called event. Now, very important formula, what is the probability of an event? See, probability is always related to event. So, probability of an event is total favorable outcomes upon total possible outcomes. So, this is only one formula we are using to find the probability of an event. Very simple. So, probability of an event is total favorable outcomes upon total possible outcomes. Now, next term is probability is always, see, probability या फॉर्म्युल्यामध्ये जर आपण बघितलं तर पॉसिबल आउटकम्स हे नेहमी जास्त असतात फेवरेबल आउटकम पेक्षा, किंवा पॉसिबल एवढेच फेवरेबल असतात मॅक्झिमम. सो फेवरेबल आउटकम्स अपॉन पॉसिबल आउटकम्स विल ऑलवेज गिव यू sometimes 0 or greater than 0 but 1 or less than 1. So probability is always 0 or greater than 0 and 1 or less than 1. In short, we can write probability of event E. See, any event we will write in the bracket and we read it as P for probability bracket of, that is probability of event E is always greater than or equal to 0 and less than equals to 1. So probability is always 0 or greater than 0 and 1 or less than 1. Sure event, ज्या इव्हेंटची प्रोबॅबिलिटी 1 नसते, that event is certainly going to happen and such event is called sure event. And impossible event, if the probability of an event is 0 then it is impossible event. See, when the probability is 1 it is sure event, and when probability is 0 it is impossible event. We can take an example of throwing a die. If a die is thrown, the possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6, and if you take the event, that is to get the number less than 7. So less than 7 in this experiment, all 1 to 6 are less than 7. So all numbers are also favorable outcomes. So favorable outcomes and possible outcomes are same. That's why the probability is same number upon same number is 1, and therefore probability is 1, and such an event is called sure event. And if you take an event getting a number greater than 6, now in this experiment tossing a die, there is no number greater than 6, so which will not happen at all, and that's why it is impossible event. That is, total favorable outcomes for this event is 0 and 0 upon anything is 0, therefore probability of impossible event is 0. Now next point is complementary event. What is complementary event? We will see. complementary event. First I will explain what is complementary event. If a event is happening something, then not happening that something is complementary event. For example, getting an head when one coin is tossed is an event, and if not getting head is its complement. And always if E is the event, then complement is denoted by E dash. So E and E dash are complementary events. E is happening something and E dash is not happening something. So happening and not happening या दोघांना एकमेकांचे कॉम्प्लिमेंटरी इव्हेंट म्हणायचं. आणि मग दोघांच्या प्रोबॅबिलिटीची सम पी ऑफ ई प्लस पी ऑफ प्रोबॅबिलिटी, पी फॉर प्रोबॅबिलिटी, प्रोबॅबिलिटी ऑफ इव्हेंट ए अँड प्लस प्रोबॅबिलिटी ऑफ its complement or complementary event is always 1. So this is also very important formula. So first I will write what is complementary event, and this formula is also to be remembered. P of E plus P of E dash, that is its complement is always 0. This is the last term in probability. Then we will solve the exercise. If is any event, it is any event happening something, then not E is not E, not event E, is its complement, complementary event. And the sum of probabilities of complementary events is always 1. So always remember probability of event E plus probability of event not E, that is E dash, its complement is always 1. Or we can write P of E dash is equals to 1, and if you transfer P of E to RHS, it will be minus P of E. So either of the formula is to be remembered. So this is the second formula normally used in the MCQ questions. So first formula is probability of an event is total favorable outcomes upon total possible outcomes. That is very important formula. And second is, if the two events are complementary events, then P of event plus P of complementary event is equals to 1, or P of complement is equals to 1 minus P of E. So this formula is also very important. Depending upon these all terms, we will start or we will solve exercise in lesson 14. Only one exercise. We will solve this exercise in next video. Till then, bye bye. Thank you. Once again, if you like my videos, please share, like and subscribe and press the bell icon so that you will get the notifications about new videos. Bye bye. Thank you.